Attention, citizens. It's time for Super Pulp Science.
This is Super Pulp Science, where we talk about how genre gets made. I am Gregory Kamichuk. I'm here with my long-suffering co-host, Justin Curry, known the world over as Chasing Artwork. And today, in the question box, is Dan Vadeboncoeur, our producer extraordinaire, who is wondering what the hell we've done in launching Deadwork. And rather than answer all the questions off the air, we said, save it for the podcast, and he can ask all those relevant questions that perhaps you too, the listener, is wondering just what the heck deadwork.ca is all about.
Thank you. And I want to start by saying that I've just been thrown into the question box like 2 minutes ago. So as is the norm in this podcast.
Yeah.
But I do have a lot of questions. I'm very curious about this because I didn't have any idea. I had no idea this was going on. You guys are working in the, and of course there's no reason I would, but you guys have been working hard coming up with this plan, and yeah, it's really, really cool.
Working in the shadows. You know, what's interesting is when we would record in the studio, the outside of the brackets of recording, you would be much more kept abreast of what was going on. And now that we turn off, you know, and go into our separate corners, some of the stuff that I loved you knowing all about, you're now in the dark about. So I actually feel a little guilty, I have to say, that you didn't know more.
Don't worry about it. It's all good. I find out when it goes live. Actually, I found out about this thing through our mutual friend, Dr. Jonathan Ball, who is also a part of this. But why don't you guys, somebody tell us what this is all about, please?
Justin, tell us what Deadwork is.
See, I feel almost a little guilty because so many people have put way more work into this than I have. So I feel like a little trepidatious about taking credit for such a heavy workload project when all I did was submit old files and prance away.
Stop. You're selling yourself short already.
I'll admit that I set you up to extol your own virtues there. I knew that if I told you to talk about it, you would feel guilty and give everyone else credit. So the Deadwork Collective is a collective of a whole bunch of writers, artists, colorists, letterers, creative comics makers who all had short experimental comics that we all have in our kind of trunks. We all have these secret one tracks of like a story that maybe it can't be a whole graphic novel, but it could be a 6-page something. They become your lost talisman, sort of kicking around the bottom of the drawer. And one summer we were getting together quite distantly, but still in the same place. A bunch of us, I think Lyndon Rachenko was a key figure there.
It's been mentioned in many other podcast episodes about Deadwork, so I don't think you can say the words Deadwork without thinking of Lyndon.
And we just said, what if we got all of those ideas together in one place? And I tried to take over the whole thing and call it the Super Pulp Science Collection.
Of course you did.
And I said, we've got the branding done. We'll just put it all, it'll be great. We'll take it under the wing. And then I missed a meeting. And as soon as I missed a meeting, it was now the Deadwork Collective.
Yeah.
Bravo, Lyndon. Way to cut Greg out of it.
Yeah. So the usurper, I was just like, it was like a Macbeth story, right? They had blood on their hands and the ghosts were calling for vengeance. But the Deadwork Collective is really this, that we all have these kind of dead stories. Not because we don't want to bring them to life, but because you very rarely will have a platform for those short experimental works.
Yeah, and 6 to 8 stories don't make sense to print, like a print run of that. I don't know where you'd go with that. Like typical comics are 32 pages. Like kids' books are around 30 to 42 pages. So when you're getting shorter than that, it almost needs to end up in an anthology or just release online for free. There's not too many other venues you can take that.
Yeah, and so many anthologies are themed anthologies, but we had made these stories kind of with our own unique vision apart from each other. So they're sort of together now, but they began apart. And so the theme of the work is that we're sort of giving it a new life. And so the Deadwork has risen here. Now, what we all have in common is stuff we like. So there's fantasy stories and horror stories and a little bit of adult humor, and certainly I'd say 15 plus readership for levels of violence that are in there. That's mostly my fault, I think. There's a explosion of a human body not to be missed, I think. My finest, most violent image that I've ever drawn. But what the Deadwork has also going for it is that all of these stories, this is the only place to get them in print.
Right.
A few of them, like one of the stories we had originally released online as a charity project, the one that Justin and I worked on, but this is its first time it's ever will appear in print. And he recolored it, reformatted it, added new texture, did a whole bunch of like,
Looks
sort of
much
like the
prettier.
opposite of what George Lucas would have done. Like he changes, but they all made it better. In Justin's case.
So you guys are having this conversation in a backyard party, but how does it become a Kickstarter? Like, how does it go from there to there?
I think what really the big thing is that everyone had the work finished, and we have enough experience putting books together that we kind of put a core team together and said, okay, then your job, we hired an editor who would go through, we all submitted. Okay, so if we're getting really into the roll up our sleeves part, we said, if we're going to do this right, we have to hire an editor. An editor has to review the stories and have the ability to kick stories that they don't think fit into the collection out, because we all had a bunch of stuff. So there would be more stories than maybe needed to fit into the collection. And so Adam took out his machete and shaved it down to a size that fit into 144 pages, about 24 little stories into our collection. And part of that editor's job was also to arrange the stories in a flow that as you go through the collection, the colors and the tones of the story and the beats and the spacing, there's 2-page spreads are a real important component. You have to have that page turn fit. And so it was a real jigsaw puzzle for everybody to get their proper 2-page spreads to fit into the collection. And that's work that, like Justin was saying, that people other than us undertook to do on behalf of the collective. And we're really thankful for it.
The other like big appeal to an anthology project like this is like when we decided to do it on Kickstarter, once you launch a Kickstarter, you really need to rely on your social media platforms and, shout out to friends and family. And when you're just one person, that can be a small pool. But when you do an anthology project and we have eight core artists, writers involved with this. So we have 8 platforms to now, shout out to and try to get involved. So that's always been another appeal of anthologies, is the marketing is so much more robust than just like a one-person team.
And what I would say, Justin, you started by saying again, I didn't really do much to be a part of this, but I think it's because you put so much into Dragon Nanny, and you like that was all you. That this feels like not a lot of work in comparison to Dragon Nanny. I think that's you're just kind of basing that on your last Kickstarter experience.
That, and he had already done he had done a brilliant amount of work already on the illustration.
The actual content, yes, exactly. Yes,
yeah,
of course.
Yeah. So our it bears mentioning, I'd say, that our table of contents, the authors and illustrators, I'll just drop them all by name. So the Deadwork Collective is Jonathan Ball, Jimby Kamichuk, Justin Curry, Jordan Patrick Finn, Stephen Call, Adam Petrush, Lyndon Radchanka, Zach Schuster, Christopher Smith, and all of those people working in very different capacities on each other's stories. So
that's 9 people. Sorry, I misspoke. It was not 8 people. 9 people are involved.
Well, including you, 9 people.
Yeah, we should leave you out. Maybe cut you out. No, no, it's already in the format. So I worked on some words on Justin's story. I did some pictures on Jonathan Ball's story. Jonathan did words on my story and one with Stephen Call, and I believe with Chris Smith also. And I relied on Lyndon to do letters, but Lyndon also helped Adam with the layouts. And so like it's this big Venn diagram of everybody sort of helping everybody else get their projects to that final stage and ready for print.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up. See this? This is my boomstick.
Zach Schuster got a dummy copy of the book produced so that we could check out mailers, like a real big important part of the Kickstarter process is how heavy is the book? How can you ship it? What will all that cost? And so he knew a printer, had to connect, and got essentially the first edition ever of the book in his hands, which is this properly bound but single edition of the rough draft of the collection. And I had such envy. He sent a little video of flipping through the book as a real object. There's so much magic in seeing that real object. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh my God, I don't care what we have to do. We have got to get this book into people's hands. Look at that beautiful thing.
And it was a little surreal seeing the end product so early. Yeah, right. We're used to seeing it after the Kickstarter's over. Then we usually still have a bit of work, and then it goes to the printer. Like, so it's usually that finish line is way farther away. So the fact that he got like a physical sample this early on is I've never been able to experience that before. So it was great. It was so cool.
And Justin, if you look closely in the photos in those videos that they posted on the Discord, it's pretty funny because there's pull quotes on the back, and it's like something great about this book, Lyndon's mom. Or this person says something really smart. Like, it's just like a whole bunch of nonsense on the.
I love those.
But to show the actual layout and font sizes, right? Is it reading at scale? All that kind of stuff is a really important step. But so the first edition, the first real copy of the book is this super cheeky one. That's not quite right, which is, I think, so perfect.
Yeah, I would vote to keep that in. I don't put a lot of weight into pull quotes, like I think a lot of times they're just kind of fluff. So I'd rather be like giggle that Lyndon's mom thought it was great than see, like some website thought it was cool. I like that more.
Has no meaning.
Yeah,
Lyndon's mom has meaning.
So wait, is this an executive decision that we should bring to the board, the collective? Only quotes from our parents?
I think funnier quotes are better than just they feel hollow, right? Yeah, it's more meaningful when it's like a family member jabbing than like some random websites giving you a just a hollow, this book looks amazing, Greg from whatever9.com.
Now, that being said, if you're a dear listener who would really like a Super Pulp Science pull quote, we will give you a great one. Just send us a copy of your book. Now, Justin may not value them.
One time we got a review and somebody said that this podcast is neither about pulp nor science or something. There was I
love that one.
Very, very well worded review.
I like it. Tagline. Somebody who's into wood, like actual physical wood and the pulp making process. That he thought this was a very different podcast than what he got, but he stuck around, which I think is an amazing review to get. We had a wood scientist come in here and stick around.
Oh my goodness.
Okay,
I hope he's still listening.
Kickstarter is now live. What exactly are you asking for, and what will people get for their backing on Kickstarter?
So the book's already ready. We're only asking for the capital that it costs to print the actual copies of the books themselves. If we go over and above that threshold, then each of us will divide that and take a page rate for our work out of that. But because it's dead work, the first thing we needed to do to make it live again was actually put it into print. So we as a group decided that was of the greatest value to us. And then that would also allow us to get it into people's hands in a way, such a weird time right now. It's just so strange. Bookstores, it's weird. You can't really browse or shop like normal. Shows aren't happening. So it was a way of us to sort of take some of that joy we had in making comics and just put it all in one place and then get it to people. Really, is what it comes down to.
Do you think this project would have happened if we weren't in the current pandemic times? Like, would we be invested in this anthology if we were still on the road selling our own books, right? Like, I don't think it would. I don't think we'd be in this.
Yeah, it's a thing that can only happen in this moment, in a moment where we were all pining to cooperate and collaborate, but completely unable to. And the safest way to do that was to sort of put all of our previous work together into a project rather than like all spend time together. I think that's a great question. Would it have happened if
I
not
don't
for
think
this
so.
moment? Yeah.
I don't think so. Yeah.
That's right. Shop smart. Shop S-smart. You got that?
You're talking about getting it to the people. I imagine that it's going to be a pretty fast delivery for this, right? Like once you're funded, you just have to send it to the printer and you're good.
Yeah, big props to Donovan at Friesen's Printing Corporation, who has been like, like in the 80s when people had beepers, I feel like Donovan has been our book detective. Like his beeper goes off like every 6 hours with some ridiculous question I have for fulfillment or paperweights, or like if we change this or can we do that, and he has just been on it. So, dear listener, a real important point to take away from here is value your book reps because they're working really hard. Like your printing reps, right? The people who are helping do that manufacturing step, they are such an important piece of the puzzle. And, if we haven't told you how much we appreciate you, Donovan, and you're listening, it's on the record right here for you. Couldn't do it without you.
And the delivery date on this is June of this year, so just a few months, and that's pretty unusual for Kickstarter. I have to say, anytime I've ever been involved in a Kickstarter, it's always been like next year or something like that. It's very, and you're used to that. You're used to kind of not getting the thing you're kickstarting. But this, I imagine, it's going to be very satisfying for people to have this in their hands, as you say. The physical book in their hands is pretty magical within just a few months.
Yeah, as soon as possible is sort of our mantra here. But we're also trying to under promise so that we have some room to over deliver. So we are, we're working really hard to make sure that everything hits our internal deadlines, but we've given a little gap to the public deadline just so that, we might be ahead of schedule, but if we fall behind, we'll still be right on time for the public schedule, which I think is an important Kickstarter mentality to get into.
Now, I got to say that I really like the way you said it. Who's doing this Kickstarter? Who's kind of running this whole thing?
Zach Schuster is our Kickstarter guru.
Okay. He's done a great job, I think, in keeping this simple. There's only 5 tiers to back this project, which is, again, I love this because there's not, you get into some of these that are just like this and this and this and add on to this and all previous tiers, and it gets very confusing as to what you're getting in the end.
Yeah, I agree.
That part we thought, well, it became easier to keep simple kind of by accident since there were so many cooks in the kitchen, right? If you added too many bonus items from one group more than another, then it would kind of put it into disequilibrium, right? So
we should mention that because that's, if you haven't been on Kickstarter in the last year and a bit, they now have add-ons. So when Dragon Nanny came out, add-ons weren't a thing, and so since then they've added this where you pick your tier, which is, let's say you just want the Dead Work book, so you get that tier. And then the next screen you go to is pick your add-ons. So then you can pick, I really like Gregory's stuff, so I'm going to pick his 2 books as add-ons, and I want J-Ball's book as an add-on as well. So you can kind of build more of your own tier. And that was a huge problem with my first Kickstarter, was people wanted certain items from different tiers kind of combined, and you can only get one tier. So we had to work out some custom orders in some places, and it became a little messy. So now that we have add-ons, it was really easy to include every artist's book in that section rather than building a bunch of weird tiers where this tier has me and J-Ball and then the next tier has, Steven and Gregory stuff. But if you want to mix those up, you couldn't.
Yeah.
So this new add-on feature really helped out with that.
Lets you keep it simple. So people who show up for Justin's work that want to get his new art book, they can just get Dead Work plus the art book and then carry on their way. But if they want to support a couple of different people, they can add those books in. But it's not a requirement. It's an add-on. It's sort of like when you're getting Uber Eats and it's like, would you like fries with that after you trying to complete your order?
Give me some sugar, baby.
Can we talk about the signed version versus the non-signed version? Because this blew me away.
Okay, yes. And I don't know. Is this the place to talk about it? Because I have some trepidations, but I have some strong feelings about this.
Well, maybe Dan can be a good third party outsider on this. So Gregory and I always sign and draw in our books. This was a trick that I picked up from Gregory. I saw him doing it. I thought that's genius. I always wanted to like draw like more traditionally because everything seemed to be drawing on the computer for me. So every book I would sign it and I would do a little sketch. And Gregory would do the same. And we never charged for this. We never charged for signatures. We never charged for drawing. It was just a way of saying thank you for buying the book.
A tangible thank you for the time that they spent to find us and the time they're now going to spend reading it. Like, you know, that's how I always thought about it.
So then with this Kickstarter, more buying savvy voices spoke up about the value of signed books. And so we have a more expensive tier.
I'm just going to share my screen with you guys
yeah.
so you can see everything.
So we have a more expensive tier with a signed physical version. And it's $50 versus $25 for just the book itself.
Right.
And those tiers are competing. Like they have almost equal backers, which I was kind of surprised as because I've never charged for signatures or sketching. I didn't think people would be interested in paying more for it. I don't know. Like it never occurred to me.
I'm also conflicted with the idea that in order to have a personal touch, you have to pay twice as much. That is always like, it sticks in my craw as an idea. And so I was actually secretly hoping no one would pay extra for our signatures.
Well, so much for that. But here's the thing. I think of it in terms of this. This is what I think of. Like normally, again,
Right.
in normal times, you would be at a con. They would be able to visit you at a convention, buy the book directly from you, and have you sign and have that experience that you've just described. That's not possible right now. So now they're paying the extra money to get the sketch and the signature now, as opposed to waiting till whenever the next time they're going to be able to see you in person, and maybe they won't bring the book, maybe they'll forget it. So they want that sketch. That sketch is valuable to them, and that's why they're willing to pay money for it.
Just going to do the math here. I sold 550 Dragon Nannies times, let's just say 3 minutes a sketch. So that's 1,650 minutes of extra sketching that I put into that project.
Okay, but I'm going to give you a counter argument. I'm going to give you a counter argument. If we weren't doing that free sketching, we wouldn't have had Rust and Water.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely.
And we wouldn't have come up with Dragon Nanny. The time we put in doing those free sketching is literally where we brainstormed our next book. And so I wouldn't trade it for the money, not for any amount, I don't think. Well, maybe not any amount. There's probably an amount I might trade it for, but
I'm just kind of marveling at it. It never occurred to me.
Well, and I was doing that. If I think about like a print run that I'm out of, say, like Imagination Manifestos, I drew in every one of those because people got almost every one from me directly.
Right.
So yeah, it's thousands upon thousands of quote unquote minutes of drawing that went into those at every show. But it's also for me that moment of connection. Like my hands kind of go into autopilot when I start sketching. I can have a conversation with a person, talk to them a little bit. Their armor comes down a little bit as I watch the sort of the magic trick of a sudden drawing occur. And you have that sort of moment of real honesty where they're watching something new happen in front of them. And you might say like, how's the show going? And they'll answer super honestly instead of like small talk. So what I really like about it as a connection to a person is that it kind of turns what would normally be an awkward small talk moment into a more honest interaction between two people. At least sometimes.
I love it for like just the tangible, easy, like the tangible task that it is. Like I really enjoyed when Dragon Nanny books arrived, like taking an evening, sitting like on the couch with my girlfriend, watching a movie with a huge stack of blank books, and just one by one, like, I'll draw a little robot here. Okay, this one I'm gonna do a crab monster. Okay, this one, like just the act of doodling for a couple hours in books that you know are going to end up on somebody's shelf is a really nice like closing to a sale in my mind. And I really like it.
Your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Literally, they've been in your living room. They've been a part of your life. So that's awesome. I want to get it back to the tiers here. We've talked about the first, so that basically the first three are digital copy, physical copy with sketch in it and signed that you just discussed. But then the last two are really interesting. So the second last is called the Dead Work Collective Discussion. Discuss your project with members of the DWC. You'll pick 3 members of the DWC to review your portfolio, script, or other project you're working on, and we will arrange an hour-long video call where you can discuss it with you no matter what stage it's at. And so there's all, because basically you're looking to get the professional feedback of 3 comic creators on someone's actual product.
Yeah, and since there's 9 of us in there, they can do it like a salad bar. They can pick the people they most want to hear from, right? And we thought that would kind of be fun. It's something that we wish, like when we were kind of brainstorming, like what's something we wish we could do with other people's Kickstarters. And sometimes I'm like, man, I just would love to talk to them about how they came up with this idea, right? Or what have you. And so we thought about putting it in that way. But a lot of people are wondering how to start their work, right? How do they get a thing off the ground? And I'm a big proponent, Justin has said it many times too, start small, start short, get 5 or 6 pages together. And so somebody who is at that stage can look through Dead Work and say, like, here's all these examples of done in one, in and out short stories. How do I embrace the idea that brevity is the soul of wit, and we can sort of help with that. And sometimes they might just enjoy watching 3 of us argue if we all disagree.
I think there's something you can take from that, right? Even if it is a disagreement, because everyone has different experiences, and you may all come at it from a different perspective. So that's awesome. So then there you go. So that's just to get started. Again, you say it's difficult to get started, but what if somebody doesn't want to do? They want the whole thing done for them. Like we will create a comic for you. You will, rather, not me. So the main tier, the highest tier, is the custom comic. You bring the story idea, we'll take care of the rest. Just like the pros. What does it say? Just like the pros used to do, we'll give the story outline and we'll turn it into your very own 6-page comic, and then it's yours to do with as you wish.
Yeah, this was an idea we thought, wouldn't it be fun if we could create the old Marvel bullpen idea for somebody where they get to play Stan Lee, but they get to keep it all and they're allowed to keep it all, and we're not actually being abused as artists. It was our idea from the first, from the jump, that, someone comes in, we hear it all the time. I got a great idea for a story. Well, now that person can give us their great idea for a story, cut the check, and we'll turn it into them, and they get to play CEO of their own tiny comic company for one afternoon. And we'll turn in a professional level story to them, with a complete creative team intact. And it's work for hire. So they're allowed to do with that as they will. If they want to take it away and sell it some other way, that's up to them. I
mean, that would be a great way to pitch a movie or a TV show or something like that.
Yeah,
it's and it's $1,500 to get us to do that. So it's actually criminally inexpensive, but it's a very expensive tier on Kickstarter. So it'll take just the right kind of person to bite on that necessarily. So if you know someone who's always wanted to play Stan Lee and has good ideas but no follow through, we can be the follow through.
And then if it ever gets into the movie, that person gets to be the cameo.
That's right. That's right.
We'll just add
they can be Willie Lumpkin, the mailman.
Can I ask you guys, because I'm just kind of always thinking about this stuff myself. What is the good? What's the quantity of rewards that you like to see on a Kickstarter? Like, I think this is a great, clean one where we only have 5 tiers. But how many tiers before you start getting a little overwhelmed?
6.
Yeah, I actually
more than 10. I
really like
hate too many tiers, but I'm just like that. Like if it's tricky, because if I've arrived for the core product, I'm already there. So I don't want to be shown a mug and a t-shirt and a sticker pack. I want to be shown more of the product itself inside. So if I'm there to back your horror comic book or your, weird megalith dungeon crawl RPG zine, I don't want to see your sticker pack. I want to see more pages from inside the thing I'm interested in.
But enamel pin tier that comes with the book.
I
don't know. I don't like it personally.
Yeah.
But this book does well and the story takes off and people like it. You can make enamel pins all you like later on.
Yeah.
Okay?
I'll swallow your soul.
Come get some.
I do love it when I've backed a Kickstarter and they're like, we reached our goal. Surprise, everyone gets this extra thing. We love you. Thank you.
Yes.
That's stretch goals. Yeah.
Those stretch goals where they haven't said ahead of time what you're going to get, and then they reward everyone equally. Those are my favorite.
Yeah.
Right? Like all the books got upgraded to better paper, or now there's 50 new pages in the entire collection. Way to go, everybody. Those are the kinds of goals I really like. I'm not a huge fan of all the bric-a-brac that seems to be getting packed into Kickstarters.
I feel like it's giving false value, and they're trying to give the impression of value when there's really nothing there, right? Like I think you support a Kickstarter for a couple of different reasons, and you certainly want the product, right? You want the book, you want to have it. Some people like a digital copy, so they can buy a digital copy, and that's fine. And I think that what's important to realize is everybody's going to get what they paid for. Like you get the actual book.
We really feel strongly about it being almost finished when we go to Kickstarter, because there's nothing worse than a project that they've made look pretty, is nowhere being close to finish, and then never does get finished. There's too many horror stories and betrayals on a massive scale like that. And I think, especially moving forward, we're always going to have our books pretty much finished before we kickstart them.
Good idea.
Yeah, it's nice. No one's racing for the finish line right now on any of the work that goes into the book. That's all been done for months. And that's
Which is great, because the Kickstarter is such a colossal amount of work all by itself. Actually, one of the great things that this team has done that I really, really loved was, I can't remember who put together all those bumpers for us.
Oh, yeah. That was Zach and Lyndon.
Was that Zach and Lyndon put together
big
a whole
smooches.
bunch of like Instagram and Facebook posts for all of us. Like, just here you go. We've made these little posts for you. Post them whenever. So it was like we had like a marketing team doing work for us, and all we had to do was hit the post button.
Well,
That
we
was
kind
amazing.
of divided some of that work up in a nice way where, you know, some people worked on the press kit, some people worked on reaching out to their mailing list, some people reached out to, you know, publishers and whatever for longer term stuff. Some people handled the printing. And so everyone had their little job to do, which is really the point of a collective. And it all came together in getting it very well organized.
I just realized we haven't actually spoken about specifically about your stories in this. Let's tell people what the stories are.
Bum, bum, bum. Oh man, there's so many. You like our specific
Well, yours,
story?
your specifics, like
Yeah.
the GMB Kamichuk and Justin.
Okay, so Justin, why don't you tell the tale of Fear My Song then?
So Fear My Song kind of came about. I worked with an organization called Chasing Dreams, I think in 2014, 2016 maybe. And it was a bunch of local DJs who actually came together and did like a music event to fundraise money for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, if I'm remembering correctly. And so they reached out for me to do the cover of, they were printing like a physical CD and doing a couple other things. So they needed artwork. And so I donated my time and I did this poster of this kid wearing headphones surrounded by glowing music notes. And there was all these like serpentine dragons coming out of this like darkness, almost looking like they were afraid of him, afraid of this like little kid with his music. And so that was for the project, and that was done. But I just love this image so much of this little kid having music as a weapon against these shadow monsters. And so over the next couple of days, I developed this like little bit of a world and story. And I don't exactly remember, Gregory, when I brought you into it, but we'd finished Cassie and Tonk at that point. This was like just a little, I wanted to do a big endless comic. So it's going to be just one long scroll.
Yeah,
that
you
you'd
were
look at
we were
your
playing around
phone.
with scrolling comics. Yeah, just
Yeah.
like tumbling down.
Yeah, so the kid in the story falls down kind of into a cave system, starts getting chased around by these shadow monsters, and then discovers that music scares them off and hurts them. So then when he finds headphones with music in it, he has a way to fight back. And so I think I worked out the whole thing visually, and much like we've worked on other projects, once I had it all visually built, then I sent it to Gregory and said, plop some words on here.
Yeah, like speaking, we were poking fun at poor Stan Lee. His specter might rise to punish us. But the truth is that method can really work, where you come in and you plot some words over top, which is, how almost all of the Marvel comics of our of that generation were made. So it was a really fun experiment in finding the right tone for that story, which was quite creepy, but also very hopeful. So it's a really interesting. And it's funny, we can't belabor the point because the story's so short that if we tell you too many details, right?
Right. I do like I still love this world and this mechanic of music as a weapon, and I do have a more elaborate story in mind and kind of planned out. So I'd love to eventually turn this short story into like a much bigger story. Like I have about a 72 page graphic novel set in this kind of world, in this universe, that I would love to get around to someday. And the other like pie in the sky plan I had with this is, how cool would a side scroller game be that used the Guitar Hero like instruments as your controller? So the little character would almost be on rails. He would just be doing his thing, but you'd need to be playing music to keep him protected from all the enemies that were coming in. And I just thought that'd be like a neat, unique way to use a game controller, because the only other place those guitars were being used was like the 2 games. I don't know.
You have
That
a
was
big
another,
power cord, big power cord to keep the monsters away.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah,
also, you know, I don't think there's anyone since the invention of headphones. I don't think there's any person that hasn't used them as an escape from
Yes,
something bad,
exactly.
right? Which is really what, you know, the extended metaphor here is, that, you know, the music that you carry with you and that you'll hide inside, it keeps those monsters at bay sometimes.
Right.
On the flip side, the story Dine In and Take Out is a psychic battle between 2 people in 2 very different places. I have one character in a diner and one character in his like butterfly collection room. And they are, even though they're separated by a great distance, the 2 characters are battling it out by flinging objects at each other from inside that locked down space. And so, I mean, you can decide for yourself, dear listener, where would you rather be seeking refuge, in your own living room or in a diner, if a enemy psychic could fling whatever was around at you, right? So
I'm looking around my living room right now.
yeah, it's
Got a cat right there.
right. So it was a really fun sort of story, and it's you know, potentially part of a much larger project, but it was just an experiment in storytelling where I would try to use the environment moving around more than the characters moving around to show character. You know, the big thing in comics is you're supposed to show expression and body language to show the mood of the character. Well, they're sitting still. Their faces show expression, but they're sitting still while the environment expresses the opposite body language, because it's the person in the preceding panel's mood that is being projected into the environment of the next panel. And so it was a really fun visual experiment. I have a quirky little gag story called The Exquisite Corpse. He's sort of become the little mascot of our dead work because his punchline is dig it. And the other story I have is called The Cube Dive, and it is another weird sci-fi psychic exploration story where a person, it's open for interpretation, but they are either going into a psychic space and doing battle with some alien creature in that space, or they are diving into their own psyche and doing battle with some terrible thing that is in or on their own mind.
Both that story and your first one, I wanted to mention, if you're a fan of the TV show Legion, those are definitely for you.
See, I've never seen Legion, so I'm gonna.
Plus,
You'll like Legion.
yeah, and also the other one, The Gifted, was a good one too on Fox. It was a Fox series. What I liked about both you guys talked about, like, these are kind of a smaller piece of a larger world. Like, you have imagined, fleshed out these worlds in other ways, and you would like to explore these worlds. What I like about this whole idea is that this gives it an audience. This, now you get to see what people will think of your work. You'll get the feedback. You'll like, oh, we love this, or, you know, or maybe not, maybe they don't love it, but you'll know, what people think of it, and that will give you a license to go ahead and create more or not, I guess.
Well, yeah, well, theoretically, and the other thing too is it's just so nice to have that work live again.
Well, that's
Yeah.
that's right.
For
It's
an
dead
audience.
until somebody reads it, then it's alive again.
Klaatu, Veranda.
So this is a successful Kickstarter, and we have still 24 days to go as of this recording. Are we going to see a sequel, Return of the Living Dead work?
I was going to ask that as well. If this is a success, do we have? What would you like to happen next?
In my perfect world, we would expand the Dead Work Collective to include more members and more types of storytelling. Yes, I would love to do Return of Dead Work or Son of Dead Work or Bride of Dead Work.
Not the Living Dead
Or-
work. That's not the right franchise.
Or because we have such a strong team, could the next anthology be themed and new work?
Evil Dead
Because
work.
Evil Dead Work,
Evil-
yeah.
like
Yes, I would
the
work
real
with any of
hurdle
these
with
people.
any anthology is like arranging your artist to hand things in on time. It's hard enough with like one other person, let alone if you've got
Yeah.
15 artists around the world that, yeah, it's, herding cats. But now that we have a trusted team that we've worked on a project with and like, is that maybe the next step, doing something that's a little more work and a little harder?
Well,
But
interestingly enough, I already have enough Dead Work to put in a new volume right now, like little experimental shorts. It's what I do. It's
Yeah.
how I like sort of flex certain skill sets is I set a really short story plan together, and then I just bang out 4 or 5 pages and sort of figure it out. And if it works, great, then I polish it. And if it doesn't, I don't stress. I just go on to the next thing. So I have a bunch of ones that I'm like, wow, okay, that worked. I wish I had planned a longer story because, 3 or 4 pages got me there, but man, I want more. I think that's a good feeling to have, is at the end of a short story, if you want more, it probably doesn't need more. It's probably written just enough to have the right flavor that
Right.
people want more. We could very easily do another Dead Work volume where the rules are the same, right? If you want to be included, you have to send us the finished pages.
Yeah.
Because like the big thing that made this successful as far as getting the project together was everyone had done their part well, and now we were putting it together.
And there's nothing better than a sequel book on a Kickstarter. If Dead Work 2 has a tier that includes Dead Work 1, you're going to move a ton of Dead Work 1s along with Dead Work 2. It becomes a tier that everybody's going to want that missed out on the first one. Oh, I can get them both as a bundle. Here we go.
Yeah. Well, and practically too, the Dead Work Collective book, whatever our overages in the printing are, they also can become +1 or add-ons to anybody's Kickstarter who's a member of the collective, which is a great way to keep spreading the love.
Dead
Yeah.
Work 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Dan, you're on the naming committee.
Okay, so where do people go to back this? What happens here?
They go to deadwork.ca and it will kick you right to the Kickstarter. And later that URL will live as the place to get the book afterwards as well.
Such a good idea. Stealing that idea immediately. So
Yeah,
good.
that was Jonathan Ball's idea to say, like, let's give a real easy URL. He just ran over and he bought it and said, okay, now we're using this. And, it's very cheap to buy a website and point it at somewhere, right? Building
Right,
a
and then
website, that's a whole other thing, but just pointing
And
it.
it's not necessarily going to stay up there forever, right? Like, won't deadwork.ca eventually just disappear and like does it have it forever?
For now, the idea is that at least for the next year or so after fulfillment, there'd be ways for people to buy the other copies. So that URL will live for a while.
Yeah. Okay. No,
But I'm
cool.
sure it will get folded into Jonathan's evil stranger fiction empire at some point.
Oh, please, let's not mention him. He'll become aware. Okay, let's. Well, then there. In the meantime, people can still go to deadwork.ca and order their book and receive it within a few short months in the mail. I'm excited. I can't wait to get this. It's gonna be awesome.
And a dear listener that likes our podcast but doesn't like backing books on Kickstarter, you can help us immensely by just sharing it with people who do like graphic novels and buying stuff on Kickstarter. Like it's It costs you nothing but a little bit of time, and it's a huge win for all of us if the message gets out there. This has been Super Pulp Science, where we shamelessly promoted our new Kickstarter, deadwork.ca. Dan, thank you for asking us all those cogent questions, and sorry for leaving you out of the loop on our secret project. This is Gregory Kamichuk encouraging all of you to join the fight and make comics.